Zombies Chronicles 2 can't and won't happen, and here's why. Now, Zombies Chronicles 2 is perhaps one of the most highly requested things within the entire zombies community. To quickly sum up for the people living under a rock, Zombies Chronicles was a DLC for Black Ops 3, which remastered several maps from the older games, bringing back characters, wonder weapons, etc. Now, when they released it, people noticed that, they didn't remaster a couple maps, so now we want a second one. Now, I made two claims that we're going to address one at a time. The first being why it can't happen. Now, the reason it can't happen, or more so why I don't want it to happen, is just due to modern zombies as a whole. I personally believe every single one of these maps would play like absolute garbage with the modern systems, or even just how zombies work. Imagine fitting 50 zombies in this. I mean, I've heard people complain about how claustrophobic Shattered Veil is, and if this is claustrophobic, then I don't even know what this would be within a game like Black Ops 6. I mean, they couldn't even consider making something like the Afterlife work when we already have this piece of shit crafting table and the self-revive system. It just straight up wouldn't work. I don't even think it worked in Blood of the Dead. I despise that map with all my heart. And by the way, this is only one example. Call of the Dead, Buried, Die Rise 5, I think even Transit would play way worse within a game like Black Ops 6, because these maps were built entirely around the mechanics within the games that they're in. And I think even Treyarch understood this, which is why we didn't get remasters in Black Ops 4, we got reimaginings, because they changed the maps to fit the mechanics. And that's not what Zombies Chronicles is. It's a pack of remasters, not reimaginings. And while Treyarch could reimagine a map like Buried or Transit, they would never do it in the style of Zombies Chronicles because it simply wouldn't work. So if it won't work, and not only that, but we have the potential of reimaginings being worse than the original, then why on God's green earth would I seriously want a Zombies Chronicles 2 within these modern games? I honestly do not see the purpose or value in it at all. Now, with that covered, let's talk about why it won't happen. Now, I personally believe that Treyarch really just doesn't have any interest in Zombies Chronicles 2 as an idea. And the reason I say that starts with the first question I asked myself, which is, how would we even receive it? Cosmetics and the seasonality shit was to stray away from these $15 DLCs to bolster the player base and make more money off cosmetics. So they can't do the $15 DLC, but it's also way too much free content to fit within a season update. They're not going to release something this massive within a business model that is solely ran and sustained from them slowly drip feeding us content. It makes no logical sense, and I see no reason or chance that Activision would approve something like this. It's not free money like some people claim, it's a waste of time. I mean, even within the original Zombies Chronicles, some of the maps might be visual upgrades, but they are genuine mechanical downgrades compared to the original. The biggest example of this to me is Origins. They changed so many little things that used to bolster the original a lot. The biggest example is them removing the fire staff skip for the Easter egg. Even the mud is worse in Black Ops 3 compared to the original. I genuinely never play the Black Ops 3 version of Origins because of the changes that were made. I mean, even a map like Shinonuma or Shangri-La just play way worse, especially within Shang because of how AIDS the zombies in Black Ops 3 are, on top of the baby gun being nerfed, and then on top of that, they removed PhD from the map. It just sucks when they release these remasters, and half of the remastered roster I have not touched in years. Now, what is the solution? And the only one we really have is the community-made remasters of these maps, like the Call of the Dead remaster and Mob of the Dead remastered by Cop for that, or the Die Rise remaster and upcoming Transit remastered by Dobby and Zella, the upcoming Transit remake by Verco, a 5 remastered by Boris, and even a Buried remastered by Slayan. And while these look absolutely fantastic, they still aren't a fantastic solution. And the main reason for that is that they are released on a busted game on PC, and not only that, but the large majority of the COD fan base are on console. The PC player base has definitely gotten much bigger over the years, but it is nowhere near the majority of the Call of Duty player base, and that trickles into the Zombies fan base as well. Even on my Die Rise review, I had countless comments from people talking about how badly they wish they could play this remaster, but they can't because they're on console. It's an unfortunate place to be in, and I used to feel this way, and it sucks. It feels like you're missing out on the one thing that you've wanted for years. And if you want to play it, you better cough up $1,000 for a computer, $200 to $800 on one monitor, $60 for Black Ops 3, and then other accessories like a keyboard, a mouse, a fucking desk. And most people on console are not doing all of that. So I definitely feel for all of you on console. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is the community aspect when it comes to Zombies Chronicles 2. And the first thing I'm going to ask you guys today is to please, for the love of God, stop buying into these leaks videos that proclaim we're getting Zombies Chronicles 2 at all, or that we ever were. For example, the biggest claim that has been made is that Zombies Chronicles 2 was meant to be in Black Ops 4. This is wrong. Why? Because the evidence for this claim is that there are assets in the files from maps like Transit or Buried. Now, the reason these assets are in the files are for Blackout. Anybody who says otherwise is shitting these claims out of their ass with no actual proof. But Seth, what if these assets were originally there for Zombies Chronicles 2, but were repurposed for Blackout? While that may be possible, there's quite literally zero proof or evidence for that claim. It's just straight copium and nothing more. Source? Trust me, bro. I just need you guys to understand, for God's sakes, to stop getting your hopes up over nothing. This has been an endless cycle of clickbait and disappointment for years, and while I might not call out specific creators, this idea, which started out as a good faith request from the community, has slowly turned into a lie, abused and milked for all the engagement it possibly can, simply for money. So please, when you see a video which promises something like Zombies Chronicles 2 or Transit Remaster, sit back and just be cautious, and make sure to set your expectations accordingly so you aren't stuck in an endless cycle of disappointment like so many others in this community, like I used to be in this community. And maybe it'll let you appreciate what we already have more than you did before. I understand the community's desire for these maps to be fully remastered for everybody to play, but within this modern landscape, it's not only completely unfeasible, but it also doesn't make sense within COD's modern monetization methods. And even some leakers that seem credible, in reality, they're just speaking out of their ass. And if you want Zombies Chronicles 2 and are on PC, these remasters are either already made or are being worked on. Everybody's socials and Patreons will be in the description of this video so you can support them and be rewarded for doing so. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is DOUGHNUTS' kind of review on the Shattered Veil, because honestly, I find it incredibly interesting, and I would like to continue the conversation around the map itself.
But wasting no further time, we need to talk about the Shattered Veil, because people are absolutely loving it. I'm hearing so much praise. This is one of the best maps of Black Ops 6, the best map of Black Ops 6, one of the best maps of all time. And I gotta say, with that sentiment, I think the Shattered Veil is perhaps one of the most overrated maps we've had in such a long time.
Okay, so that's the main claim he makes, which I personally disagree with. Is it one of the best maps of all time? No, but I think it is definitely the best within this game so far, for sure.
But I want to get into why I think this is a little bit overrated. And you might think, DOUGHNUTS, what's wrong with the map? DOUGHNUTS, what don't you like? And my answer to that is that not necessarily that I dislike any of the things I'm about to say, but more so I am really disappointed by the things I'm about to say. First and foremost, well, the biggest two issues for me is the blatant reuse of wonder weapons and boss sumps. I think this is going into the realm of egregious, if you ask me.
I think this is fair. Now, I defended this a bit because I'm so in love with the Mark IIs within my review of the map, but within the context of the entire game, I mean, yeah, the majority of the wonder weapons we have in this game are reused, and I do think that's an issue. I just don't think that's necessarily an issue for me within the map itself. It's more of an issue for me pertaining to the other maps that we've gotten.
The main thing that concerns me, the main thing that kind of just blows my mind is how positive everybody's being about this map. I am so beyond confused. I would love for somebody to try to explain to me how this map is philosophically different than the Tomb, because I don't really think it is.
Trust me, I I will, so hopefully you can understand.
People trashed on the tomb. People hated the tomb. One of the worst zombie maps of all time, they said. Oh my goodness, this is a worst map. Black Ops 6 sucks now because of this. But then we have Shattered Veil, which in principle, in design, well, maybe not design, but maybe like in terms of philosophy, I'll say, is pretty darn similar to Shattered Veil. But people love the Shattered Veil and they hate the tomb for some reason. And I know, like, believe me, I know it's different groups of people. It's a big audience COD Zombies has. So obviously the loudest voice is not always the same people saying the same things all the time. But even down to the minor details, like I remember the ice staff in the tomb getting flack because, oh my goodness, why is just the ice staff coming back? Why is the ice staff coming back at all? How did we even get the ice staff in the first place? Which, you know, are valid storyline questions and problems and maybe plot holes. I don't know. I'm not a huge storyline guy. But from my really, like I said, not storyline guy brain, if you have a problem with the ice staff just being in the tomb, why don't you have a problem with the Wunderwaffe and mainly the ray guns just being in Shattered Veil? In fact, from my, again, feeble, stupid story brained mind, it makes more sense for the ice staff to be in the tomb than it does for the ray gun Mark II to be in Shattered Veil.
Okay, now the main complaint with the ice staff that I saw was particularly its purpose in relation to the map. On top of that, it's the only staff in the map. It's the only wonder weapon besides the normal ray gun and the standard Mark II. Now, number one, you don't really use the ice staff that much for the Easter egg. You kind of just shoot a few symbols. It doesn't really feel integral or connected to the map. It just feels like it's there for the sake of it. Like, one of the main things I saw was people saying that if you're going to reuse wonder weapons, reuse them all. So when we got Shattered Veil, we got a ton of reused wonder weapons, and so that problem wasn't really there. On top of the fact that the Easter egg makes them feel important and integral to the map, like they feel like they belong there. And I'm going to disagree with your take as well, that the ice staff makes more sense to be on the tomb, because the ray guns and their elements are all connected to the liminal spaces within the Shattered Veil. It makes way more sense for them to be there, given that they are connected to the map itself, within the storyline and within how you actually progress the Easter egg. They also all feel completely different from one another. When you pick up a different variant, you have to use it in a completely different way than you did compared to a different variant.
Because when you look at the tomb, it takes place in a Dark Ether nexus, and the Dark Ether is where everything from the old storyline is. That's where everything from World at War to Black Ops 4 got pushed into. And so when you have the Dark Ether nexus, and then we use the etheric lanterns to reveal the ice staff parts, it's like they're revealing this powerful thing that it wants us to use from the Dark Ether, and we craft it literally in this beautiful like pedestal type thing in the Dark Ether. We are crafting it from the Dark Ether ourselves.
You see, within your explanation, Donuts, the only question it raises for me is then why are the other staffs not here if this is such an integral space and connection between both universes? And that's exactly the problem with the tomb. No matter how much I love the ice staff, I still wish the other ones were here.
That makes more sense than reading a blog post going, oh, the ray gun Mark II was found in the Dark Ether. What? Like, that's the reasoning they gave. Now, again, there could be some really great storyline explanation here. Richtofen made it, and this people made it, Project Janus, all this stuff. They're looking into the Dark Ether, whatever. But even still, isn't that intellectually the same thing as we did with the ice staff? And not only that, we brought back the variants of the ray guns, but we didn't even bring back all of the variants of the ray guns from Alpha Omega. So the same argument could be made. If you're going to bring back the variants, why don't you bring back all of the variants? It's just that sort of argument. I don't understand why it sucked in the tomb and it's the worst thing ever, but now this is one of the best maps of all time? That makes no sense to me.
Yeah, and you're right, but that only applies to the base Mark II. The variants were made by Janus. They were not found. They were created. Same for the Wunderwaffe. They brought back 2 of them and gave us a new one on top of the Wunderwaffe. So you're kind of doing a red herring here, no offense.
People say, and this is so weird to say, people think this is the best map aesthetically, like atmospherically. This map has the best atmosphere. Like I said, I love the environmental storytelling, and I think that is a big part of what people are feeling right now. This place does feel really lived in, but apart from maybe the Z-Rex boss fight and like the dinosaur bones when you walk into the mansion and like the Sam like ball there, apart from those 2, maybe 3 times, I was never like awestruck. I was never like, oh my goodness, look at this map. It's a beautiful map. Like, please, if anyone for Dragons listening, or like, this is not an insult to the map. The map is gorgeous. I think the woods and the mountains in the backside are pretty good, but then if you really start looking around, it kind of becomes really barren, especially if you look at Liberty Falls. You could tell that it's just a really low resolution and low detailed thing, which is fine. Like, that's not a big deal. But then when you compare this map to Terminus, like, my goodness, I could just boat around Terminus, and just to this day, 4 or 5 months later, my jaw is on the floor because of how gorgeous that is. Citadel, people dog on Citadel because there's only like 4 or 5 rooms of the actual castle, but like, we have a village, and on one side you've got this brilliant walkway of the village, this stone cobblestone pathway. On the other side you have kind of a farm road, dirt road path leading up to this huge castle wall, and it has a oil trap there, and you've got these big things. You got a cannon to open up the front door, and not to mention that boss fight. Talk about awesome.
Okay, Citadel's atmosphere is ugly as hell. It's literally just the color brown everywhere, and it doesn't really evoke an emotion out of you. It's like genuinely a spiritual successor to Transit at this point. The best atmospheres are the Tomb, Terminus, and Shattered Veil. They all evoke an emotion, and they set a tone within the map. Shattered Veil does a good job conveying that feeling of loneliness, especially when they have this moodier lighting, and on top of that, all 3 areas of the map look very distinct from one another. Abstract beauty is not really what the Shattered Veil is going for, so if that's not your preference, then I understand. But it is one of the better ones within the game, at least, top 2 or 3.
And if you don't yet, you certainly will now, because now I want to talk about probably one of the biggest rants that I think I've been on possibly in years. Before we get to that, and I guess segueing into that, let's talk about the Wunderwaffe, because I made a comment in a live commentary recently that the Wunderwaffe, I said, was the most overrated wonder weapon of all time, and people were like, all right, Donuts, you're gonna need to explain that one. And as my rebuttal, I'm gonna say I do plan on dissecting all of the ray guns and the Wunderwaffe for this map here, Shattered Veil, in the coming weeks, so hopefully you'll get a kind of gun guide, a wonder weapon guide about those guns just soon. But that being said, I haven't done deep testing into all of what the Wunderwaffe can do, but to me, the Wunderwaffe is a glorified Deadwire. It's Deadwire in the version of a gun. You shoot it, you kill a handful of zombies, and then the rest of the zombies get stunned and they take a little bit of damage. That is exactly what Deadwire does. That's like a lightning incantation. To put that as an entire wonder weapon, I feel is just crazy overrated.
All right, well, I think it's overrated for sure. I don't think it's super fun to use or anything, and I'm not incredibly impressed, but I mean, the Wunderwaffe came first, and last time I checked, it doesn't have a cooldown, so I don't know what you're going for here when it comes to just saying that it's Deadwire. I don't think that's a very strong point. My main contention with it is that it's been in literally every zombies game made by Treyarch one way or another, besides 2 of them. Black Ops 2 is the GOAT, by the way. I just can't get excited for this wonder weapon at all. He then shows these 2 charts, which only confirm only one thing to me, which is that Black Ops 2 is the greatest zombies game of all time, so thank you for doing that, Donuts. What also makes me laugh is that later on he says this.
I am so close to confirming. It's just so close, it's right there. We're getting some sort of Zombies Chronicles 2. I believe it. I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid.
And you expect me to believe that? What do I look like? I look like an idiot.
Hey, I don't care what you believe.
Everybody just calm
Get
down.
him off my land.
Black Ops 2 Remastered at the very least with some Zombie Chronicles 2 in there. I think it might be coming. Look, I'm putting on my tinfoil hat here, okay? I'm looking for Pepe Silvia. They don't exist. There is no Pepe Silvia, okay? We have the jet gun from Black Ops 2. We have now the ray gun Mark II, which is from Black Ops 2. The Sliquifier has an area of effect similar to the marksman rifle variant of the ray gun Mark II on Shattered Veil. Leaves behind a little thing that damages zombies. That's a bit of a stretch. It's a bit of a stretch. Okay, then what do we have? Then we have Buried, which we have the Paralyzer, which is eerily similar to the alternate fire of the Beam Smasher that slows down enemies and stuns them. Very interesting. Then we have the literal ice staff, and if they have one staff, maybe they could just color it differently, get a different texture for the other ice staffs just from Origins. We have the VR11 from Modern Warfare 3 Zombies, so that was in Call of the Dead. We have the Wunderwaffe, which was in Call of the Dead. Call of the Dead featured a mechanic where if you were inside the pond, you would slowly get some ice around your screen, which is exactly what happened in the Jingle Hells event way back in December. I'm telling you, Zombies Chronicles 2 is happening. Or it was planned to happen and it's not happening. I don't know. It's just, it's getting closer and closer to becoming a reality. That's what I'm saying.
No, Donuts. I'm sorry. Treyarch being lazy and reusing wonder weapons, is not a strong point for Zombies Chronicles 2 happening. I just don't understand supporting this idea, but who knows? I could be wrong too. But speaking of supporters, I'd like to thank my own members for their continuous support on this channel. If you'd like to be shouted out at the end of all of my videos, among other perks like our community Discord, members only editing streams, and early access to all my videos, feel free to check out being a member. But anyway, Bye.